Hi there friends, my name is Hannah and welcome back to my channel. We're doing a reading vlog today. I haven't done one of these in a while where I have the intention of only reading one singular book. However, just for once, I would like to be in the thick of the discussions. I want to be reading the book that everyone is reading at the time that they're reading it, not, which is what I normally do, reading it like 5 years after everyone has been talking about it. So I went to my local bookshop today and I bought Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Now, here's the thing. I have never read a Sally Rooney book. I have watched or tried to watch the 2 adaptations of her work that exist. I loved the TV series of Normal People and hated Conversations with Friends. I think I watched like an episode and a half. I hated every single one of them and I was just not interested at all. But I haven't read her books. However, I feel like I like her. Whenever I see like interviews with her, she's so articulate and she's so interesting. And I think, God, I should read her books. And you know what? I was gonna pick up one of the other backlist titles. And then I thought, you know what, Hannah? It's in the run up to Christmas. Treat yourself, get an early Christmas present, buy yourself the bloody book. So in this video, I'm gonna be reading this book and telling you what I think, specifically as someone who has not read a Sally Rooney book before. I'm looking forward to it though. It's got chess in it. I enjoy chess. So all I know is it's about 2 brothers who are quite different and one is a chess player. And we're just gonna dive into it this evening. I am a multi-book reader. So I will probably be reading this over maybe like a week or so. Maybe, I mean, I'm a mood reader, so if I'm really enjoying it, I'll carry on reading it. But I'm also reading a number of other books that I'm also really enjoying. So Rooney's got some competition. And with no further ado, I'm gonna go do some reading. Okay, cool, see you in a bit, bye. Do you want the first line? You'll all fucking know the first line. If you're watching this, let me know now in a comment if at the start of this video you have already read this book and you're watching this video to see what I think of this book that you already have an opinion of, or are you watching this video as I often watch videos about Sally Rooney books, trying to work out if you want to read the book. Let me know in a comment down below and then check back in later to tell me your thoughts on my thoughts. That's how this booktube thing works, right? Okay, I'm going now, bye. Also, just so you know, this is probably the last time for a little while I will have good lighting because setting this ring light up is a faff. So probably the next few clips of me are gonna be like really terrible lighting. So just lower your expectations, okay, thanks. What you got, Lou? Bit of a shoe. Well done, great find. Cool. Hello. Slightly dodgy angle. You are resting on an empty glass of water. And also, there's a really big fly in here that's so stupid. I keep opening windows to let it out, but it's incredibly dense and it's too cold to leave the windows just open. So if you can hear it buzzing, apologies, but I guarantee I am more annoyed. I am here with a 25% update. So I've read the first 4 chapters of Intermezzo and I'm enjoying it. So we are following 2 brothers. And at the moment, I don't know if this is going to continue, but at the moment we're alternating chapters. So chapter 1, we're following
Peter, who's the older brother, he's in his mid-30s. He's a barrister. He has complex relationships with women. And then the second chapter follows his younger brother, Ivan, who is a 22 and a bit of a chess whiz. So not a grandmaster or anything, but very good at chess, and has been trying to pursue it as like his vocation, but things aren't really working out. And their father has died recently, and so we're kind of just following the two men in the aftermath of that, and their lives and their romantic lives especially. I am enjoying it. She changes the writing style quite a lot for the two characters, which I do think is good, because we're not getting it's very, very close third person. It's not first person. But in Peter's section, so Peter is quite avoidant. He has this former long-term partner who has had some kind of accident that has it's unclear at the minute, but she is dealing with, I think, like chronic pain or some like long-term injuries or disabilities potentially as a result of having this accident, and for that reason can't have sex. And it's not clear if that is the reason that they broke up, or if they broke up prior to that or after that, but for a different reason. But he clearly is incredibly emotionally attached to this woman, and is therefore trying to get his sexual kicks from others. There is a lot of mirroring happening. So the older brother is having a sort of relationship, situationship with a 22-year-old, and the 22-year-old brother is having a relationship with a woman who is his brother's age, 36. So there's a lot of symmetry, which at the moment is interesting, but is in danger of becoming a little bit repetitive. Like there were two chapters where each of the brothers, in one chapter, one brother is like kissing a girl against a countertop in a kitchen, and then in the next chapter, the other brother's doing it. But I'm struggling at the moment. Yes, that's what I was saying. So Peter's very avoidant, and the way that Sally Rooney is writing the chapters that are following him is like very, very, he's very in his head. I mean, both of the brothers are for different reasons, but Peter is very, very in his head, and like very judgmental. But the way he's written is, it's very short sentences, or like lots of kind of strung together sentence fragments that aren't really sentences, and some of the chapters are quite long, although his chapters are shorter than Ivan's actually. But I think that's because it's not very easy to read, or I don't find it very easy to read. And I also don't like Peter very much. I love Ivan. At the moment, I think he is a sweetheart. And I have a lot of like warmth for him, and a lot of kinship, I think. He is a sort of very neurodiverse coded, and is in his head in a different way to Peter. Ivan, I think, spends a lot of time. He's more outward looking, I think. He's very curious about people and curious about things, and he wants to understand them, and so that can lead him to kind of like playing over things in his mind. Whereas Peter is a lot more, he turns his attention inwards a lot more, and actually doesn't seem that interested in what other people are experiencing. He questions his own motives. He doesn't really understand why he does things. He has a postgrad, I think, in philosophy, and there is a kind of a whole line through the book at the moment around like, what is the point of life? Which could be quite navel-gazy, but it's just about working at the minute. But like, I'm really enjoying Ivan's sections, and at the minute they're carrying the book for me. I think if I was following only Peter, I wouldn't be very interested. I hope there is going to be a turning point where my feelings for these characters are, played with a little bit more. I don't want to not like Ivan, but it would be nice to like Peter a little bit more and maybe like Ivan a little bit less, just for the sake of the story. Do you know what I mean? But it's interesting, and we are following some other characters as well within those chapters. But I think that's it for now. And barring any really long Peter chapters, I think my interest in Ivan at the moment is powering me through. But I've just finished an Ivan chapter, so I've got a Peter one next. I'll hate it tomorrow when it's iced over, but right now, we love it. %70 update. I'm conflicted. I'm so conflicted. Oh, snow, yay. But I really can't decide how I feel about this book. It's interesting because, and I suspect this is possibly typical of Sally Rooney's writing, but as I haven't read her books before, I don't know. Feel free to correct me. I feel like she's not big on plot. It is very like, here are people with relationships that are messy. And she leaves it at that. And she does messy relationships really well. I think she writes them really well. I think she writes communication well, or miscommunication, possibly. However, what I'm finding is I'm quite enjoying the book when I'm reading it, but when I put it down, I have no real impetus to pick it back up again. However, we've just got to it last night, and I would have carried on reading last night, but I was too sleepy. Because the chapters I was reading then were kind of overlapping a bit more, and it felt like we were building towards some kind of climax. So possibly I will feel differently at the end. Something I've noticed, and I don't know if this is a legitimate observation, right? It's just a thought that I keep having when I'm reading it. I don't think she does a lot of world building. And I don't mean like big grand world building like in a fantasy novel. Of course, she's not going to do that. But the physical, outside of the individual's kind of like sensory perception of it, because we do get a lot of like sensory input in terms of how characters are responding to their environment or the people around them, right? But we don't get a lot of like what the world looks like, where things are, what I can't really picture anything. And I think that is because she is so deliberately kind of internal. But I think that might be why I'm struggling a bit with it. But like, I was thinking before, like, is that fair? I think I do like other books that don't have a ton of like physical description of like rooms and where we are. And I think she probably has made the decision that that's either not very important, or these are two quite neurotic men, right? They're very in their own heads. And so it makes sense that they are not really noticing or engaging in the wider world. And so it's probably a compliment to her writing that is what it feels like, because I suspect it's how she wants you to feel. But I'm struggling a little bit with it. I do think she's brought some more complexity to the characters, though. I am a bit fatigued still by the mirroring between the two men's lives. I kind of like get it now. I get it. I think it's interesting though, like we often dip into Margaret's head, who is sort of romantic interest of Ivan, the younger brother, and we hear a lot more of her perspective, whereas interestingly we don't get that for the women in Peter's life. And I think that again is because, as I think I said before, Peter is a little more self-absorbed, and so I think again it's quite telling. I think there is a slight tendency to not quite give the female characters the complexity that the male ones have. They're a little bit savoury, the women, but I think that again is intentional, because I think we're not seeing the women as they actually are. We're seeing them sort of through the eyes of these men. So, you know, I think it's interesting. It's interesting. I find myself thinking a lot when I'm reading it. I just don't know how enjoyable it is. Okay. I would like to finish it today though, so that I can get this video edited and up for you to watch tomorrow night. So, but I've got to go to work now, so later. Extremely harsh lighting. That's my reading light. Done. I will check in properly tomorrow. I did have a cry. I will have to gather my thoughts. I don't know. Definitely bits of it annoyed me, but did I find it overall moving? Yes. To be continued. Okay, hi. So, I don't know how much more together my thoughts are, if I'm honest, but I'm gonna give it a go. This is a book that is essentially about sort of journeys through grief, and it is asking quite philosophical questions about a number of things. But to me, there's two things that seem to be at the heart of this book. Firstly is this sort of philosophical tussle between potentially conflicting ways of thinking about our lives and our own roles within our lives. So, is our life a thing that we are supposed to forge for ourselves? Do we twist it and shape it and push it into being the life that we want? Or is our relationship with our life much more sensitive than that? Is a good life well lived not about forcing your life to be a certain way, but about experiencing and accepting your life for what it is and finding a way to appreciate that and see the beauty in that? And Peter and Ivan in many ways represent, to lesser or more extreme degrees, those two kind of ways of being. And the title Intermezzo, and intermezzo in chess is like a forcing
move. So it's a move that you do to kind of force your opponent to attack or kind of do something. I don't know. I'm not like, I enjoy playing like a bit of chess, but I am not up on all of the rules. Okay, I'm gonna put the book down because I'm gonna keep waving it around and it's probably gonna drive you insane. And in the book, the intermezzo is definitely the death of their father. And it's really interesting because it looms large throughout the book. It is the kind of inciting incident. And increasingly, both our principal characters, Peter and Ivan, are working through or understanding the extent to which the grief they feel for their father is informing choices that they maybe didn't think were anything to do with their father. But it's interesting because he looms really large, as I say in the book, and yet you don't meet him and you don't really know anything about him. So all you have is this very fragile picture that each of the men has of who their father was, and their versions of their father are quite different, and even the versions that they inwardly have, and then the versions that they say for various reasons. So that is all really interesting, and I did enjoy that. It reminded me a lot of oh my goodness, The Wild Laughter by Keelan Hughes. That's another great Irish book that I really enjoyed. That is kind of has a similar sort of setup, but a little bit, it's different. It is different. But I think if you were interested in the themes of this book, you might also enjoy The Wild Laughter. There was a lot in this book that I admired. I like the way that Sally Rooney handled those themes on the whole. I think the exploration of sibling relationships, particularly a brotherhood relationship, was really great. I've read vastly more books about sisters than I have about brothers, and I mean, I am not a brother. I have a brother, but I am not a brother. So I mean, I can't kind of speak to the authenticity of that relationship, but it felt interesting. I think there's something really interesting about sibling relationships, not just in literature, but like in life, because we knew each other. I mean, I don't know if you have siblings or not, but I have siblings. I have an older sibling and a younger, and I think it's interesting sometimes because on the one hand, we know them very well because we were there for a lot of formative experiences of their life. However, because we were there when they were young, when they were children, there can be a tendency to have this quite fixed idea of who our siblings are, and potentially not have that much room for the ways in which they grow and change over time. So there can be those tendencies to call back to things that they did when they were very younger, or when they were kind of different people, because we all change a lot over the course of our lives, obviously. And sometimes I think our close family members and our siblings are the ones that can not always track that as well because they were there for so long. Am I making sense? But that, I think, was captured really well. I do think Sally Rooney is very good at kind of getting to the heart of the characters, and kind of like finding these moments of kind of breaking them open, where you have these moments of kind of understanding behavior. I think she is a writer who is very, very interested in human behavior, and that's very clear. So there'd be things like, one bit that sticks out to me is it's quite a way on in the book, and Peter is talking to Sylvia, I think, and she says something like, he's talking about like wanting to feel like respected, or like he says something along the lines of, oh, I could never be a woman because like I couldn't deal with all of the disrespect. And Sylvia says, is that all your gender identity is to you? Just a need for everyone to respect you? And he's kind of like, kind of. And that there was a moment there where I'm like, yeah, that is absolutely like at the core of this character. Something has happened to him where that needs to be respected is really important. And that was a really good example of like how she can kind of like go really understand the psychology of the characters. I think it is clear that she has spent a lot of time understanding who these people are and what made them the way that they are. And I think that's really laudable. I thought the book was too long. I think it took too long for some of the characters to arrive at those moments, and particularly with Peter, these long passages of really long paragraphs that run for pages and pages and pages in this really high-paced style of just brain chaos. I found like that was really fatiguing, and I actually think didn't overall for me add as much. I didn't need all of that. I kind of got it quite quickly, and I didn't need it to keep happening. And it definitely, that felt a little too much for me. And I did find myself, I kind of don't know if this is a positive or a negative. I found myself like getting so frustrated with the characters when they were, because you got to know them so well that you could see going into an interaction that the characters were talking at cross purposes, and you knew exactly in what ways they were going to misunderstand each other. And on the one hand, very laudable, because Sally Rooney has clearly communicated these characters so effectively that I feel like I really understand them and therefore can anticipate where the conversation's going to go. But also, because I could anticipate it so fully, there's a kind of about having to then read it play out exactly as you knew it was going to play out. So I was kind of, moments like that made me, I didn't find this book on the whole a very enjoyable reading experience, and I didn't find it very compelling in terms of, I found it quite put downable. Like once I put the book down, other than some of the philosophical questions that I mulled away on, but I wasn't gripped by the story of this book. I was interested in the characters. And I think what I would really like is an essay collection by Sally Rooney. I think I would really like to hear just her talking about some of these ideas, but possibly like, I don't know if the stories or the story in this book was always the right vehicle for what it felt like she wanted to talk about. And sometimes things could feel a little shoehorned in. But as I said, I did cry. I found the end sort of passages were really moving. And I do think for a book that spends a lot of the time being very invested in the various romantic relationships, and there are lots of questions asked about those relationships throughout the book, almost none of which are answered. Spoiler. I do think the central relationship is the relationship between the brothers, and I wish the book had spent more time specifically on their relationship with each other and a little bit less on their romantic relationships. But I am still on the fence. I feel like I don't have that many things that I didn't like about it, but it's definitely not a favorite book. And I don't know how interested I am in picking up any of her backlist titles off the back of this, if it's just going to be a lot of similarly laid out narratives. It's funny, I am not a plotty person, but it did feel sometimes like the thing that was weak about it was the plotting and the story arc of it, because the arc was really just an emotional one. I felt like we needed a slightly more dramatic narrative arc in order to allow that emotional journey to feel really like a story. Am I making sense? But I would love to know if you have read this, what you think. I would love to know, particularly if you have read this and other titles in her backlist. How does this compare? Like, if you were to do like a little rank of like where this comes in terms of the other ones and why, because I really don't know. I have conversations with friends on my shelf downstairs, and I just don't feel very drawn to reading more of her fiction, despite, as I said, there being lots in this book that I did like and did enjoy. I don't know. So you tell me what you think now. It is your turn. The floor is yours, and I look forward to chatting with some of you in the comments down below. If you haven't been to my channel before and you've enjoyed this video, why don't subscribe, give it a thumbs up and stick around, and maybe I will do this. Maybe I will do this more often, where I read a more happening title in the future, because I have enjoyed. I am going to enjoy, rather, probably, now feeling like I can talk to people about this book. So thanks for hanging out with me. Please let me know your thoughts in a comment down below. I am so firmly on the fence. I can't tell you. Anyway, see you later, friends. Bye bye.